If you're a beginner sourdough baker and you experiment with the tips that I give you in this video, then you're going to see some big steps forward in your baking journey. Sourdough is like this huge machine with many moving parts, and it's a case of getting numerous cogs to fit together properly so that things can work nice and smoothly. There is definitely no one size that fits all. Now, your sourdough culture is the entire bedrock for this sourdough process. Whether you're using a classic leaven, the scrapings technique, or you're backslopping using old dough, your culture, it needs to be alive and kicking. If your starter isn't 100%, then you just cannot expect your sourdough bread to be 100% either. Now, a common problem is trying to use a sourdough starter when it's just too young. Don't fall into the trap of trying to make sourdough with a starter that's just a few days old. You want to keep feeding your starter daily until it is religiously rising and falling. And then at its peak, your starter should be super active. It should be bubbly. It should smell sour, fruity, and taste tangy and pleasant. Now, you are going to need to discard some sourdough starter when you first create it, but don't stress. Pop it in a jar, pop it in the fridge, and then once your sourdough starter's alive and kicking, you can use it to make a recipe. I've got a waste not, want not recipe on the website. So when is the right time to use your leaven or your starter? When it's doubled in size, tripled? Well, I might create a few waves here, but it's what I found to be true, certainly with my sourdough culture. If it's super stable, if it's healthy, if it's vibrant, and I can see that it was super active during the fermentation period, I don't worry too much, if I'm honest. Sure, I've got my preferred sweet spot, but if it hasn't quite peaked or if it's dropped back down in the jar, I know I can still bake a decent loaf of sourdough. Now, you'll get used to how far your starter or your leaven grows in the jar, and then over time you can aim to use it when it peaks and you're not going to go far wrong. But don't abandon your baking session if it's not quite there or it's gone a bit too far. Bake and then assess the results. You're going to learn a lot more like this. Now, this one is so overlooked, but if you get it right, it's going to make your bulk fermentation process so much easier to judge. Don't fall into the trap of fermenting your dough in a container that's too large. If you do, the dough's going to get lost inside, and then it's really difficult to see how much it's rising or increasing in volume. For an 800 gram dough, I use a 2.5 litre bowl, and then for a 1000 gram dough, I use a 3 litre bowl. When you're just starting out, try to use the same bowl each time you bake. Then you'll get used to how much that dough's rising up the bowl, because if you keep changing it, it makes it harder to recognise the patterns in your process. Now, if your bowl or your container's got measurements on the side, then you can make a note of those when your dough's in the fermentation stage, how far it's rising up the bowl. I'm also a big fan of taking pictures so that you've got a visual record of the fermentation process. This is great for assessing things afterwards or for split testing different methods. Now, learning how to tweak your formula is going to make your life so much easier, I promise you. When you're starting out, try to choose a good quality bread flour. That's a great starting point. I like choosing one with a protein content upward of 12%. And please don't go crazy with the hydration. If you use a sensible hydration of say 65 to 70%, you're going to produce a dough that's stable. It puffs up nicely, so it's easy to see how much it's fermenting, but it also makes it easy for jobs like turning it out of the basket or moving it from the counter to the baking stone or the Dutch oven. Then once you've got a feel for the dough and the process, you can gradually increase the hydration. Now, how much leaven should you use to inoculate your dough? Well, to be fair, that's going to depend on what your schedule is going to look like. But there's one thing that's for sure: the warmer your kitchen, the quicker the fermentation process will go, and the cooler your kitchen, the slower the process will go. So if my kitchen is around 18 to 20 degrees Celsius, I like to use 25 to 30% of leaven to inoculate my dough. Now at 25 degrees Celsius, I like to use 20%. And then when things start to get warmer than that, I'm dropping the inoculation down to say 10 or 15%. Now, there's no right or wrong, but I can tell you that increasing or decreasing the inoculation can really help balance out the fermentation depending on the temperature. Now, when you're starting out, try to get used to how basic doughs behave, how they feel, before you start adding lots of inclusions or making complicated recipes. Look, formulas can be tricky to get to grips with, but using a good recipe calculator can make all the difference. There are loads out there. There are many out there. You're welcome to use a copy of mine. I'll link it in the video description. I never, ever bake a loaf of sourdough without first checking the temperature in my kitchen, thinking about my available time, my schedule, and then balancing the hydration and the leaven to suit. I promise you, you'll see dramatic improvements in your baking if you start practicing this. Now, until you get used to how the dough feels and how it behaves, try to get any stretching and folding or laminating done in the first hour to 2 hours after mixing the dough. Now, that's not to say that you can't stretch the dough all the way through the bulk fermentation process, but it definitely makes it harder to monitor just how much that dough is rising in the bowl because you continuously degas it. Now, at the beginning, there's minimal increase in volume, during the first hour or two. So you're not really knocking any air out of the dough. This does become less and less important the more you get used to reading the dough. But in the beginning, it's a really good tip. Now, we can't really talk about the bulk fermentation stage without considering the proving stage at the same time. Now, I've been playing around with bulk fermentation in our community with some kind of crazy results, I guess. This was a dough that I let increase by 120, 130, maybe a little bit more, but it increased a lot in volume. And to be fair, it didn't produce such a bad result, but along the way, I ended up with some serious doorstops too. The higher the temperature and the more I pushed the dough, the trickier things really started to get. Now, if I bulk ferment my dough at 25 degrees Celsius, so it increases in volume by 75%, it spends about 2 hours proving in the basket, and then it goes into the fridge overnight. A nice, polite, stress-free routine. If I push that bulk fermentation so the dough expands by 100%, the dough spends just about an hour in the basket, then goes into the fridge. Now, if I push the bulk fermentation to 120%, I should skip any ambient proof, whack it straight in the fridge and pray, because that dough is going to rocket up, I promise you, it shoots up. The longer you leave your dough to bulk ferment, the more active the fermentation and the quicker the dough is going to prove. So, when you're considering how long you need to bulk ferment your dough for, you need to consider the proving stage at the same time. And of course, if you push this process really far, then you run the risk of your dough over fermenting completely and then you end up with a bowl of soup. Now, at normal temperatures, this isn't an issue, but once you start to get upward of 26, 27, 28 degrees Celsius, that fermentation process starts to travel quicker, I promise you. So if your kitchen's warm, bulk fermenting to around 75% is going to make your life a lot easier. Now, this is a general rule of thumb that I follow. Different doughs produce different results. And in the end, what happens in my kitchen is going to be different to what happens in your kitchen. So keep your eyes open, document your baking sessions properly and explore for yourself, because that's where you're going to see your biggest improvements. So if you're at the beginning of your baking journey, make sure your sourdough culture is super healthy and active. Choose a sensible bowl or container to ferment your dough in. Learn how to adapt your formulas and learn how to balance your bulk fermentation with the proving stage while considering the temperature. Like anything we do, there's always an element of trial and error, but if you focus on these tips in the beginning, you'll see big improvements in your baking, but you'll also enjoy the process more too. Thanks for watching. I'll see you again very soon. Stay tuned.